Welcome to Cut to the Chase, where we talk about compelling legal, regulatory, and public interest information and news. Your host is Gregg Goldfarb, an attorney, entrepreneur, investor, and activist.
All right, folks, it's time for our favorite podcast, Cut to the Chase. I'm bringing on Katherine Porter today, the resourceful lawyer, to talk to lawyers and law firms about how to help their operations, how to make themselves more efficient, more profitable. So you ready to roll, Katherine? How are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks. It's nice to be here, Gregg.
All right, Katherine was a teacher turned lawyer turned entrepreneur. So she was a lawyer for 20 years, and you're out in California, right?
Yes, Yeah.
All right, so this is coast to coast today, Miami to California. Amazing. All right, and so give us a little bit about your background. How'd you go from like teaching to lawyering to entrepreneurial stuff?
I went into teaching. My whole family is teachers, so it just seemed like the natural thing to do. And then after a couple of years, I was like, yeah, I don't know if I'm the best fit for teaching. And I had a friend that went to law school, and she was telling me about it. It was the end of her first year, and we were chatting, and it's like, that law school sounds like fun.
Yeah.
So I was like, if I do well enough on the LSAT to go to a good school, I'll go.
Yeah.
So I did, and I, didn't really think a lot about being a lawyer. My real dream job would be to be a professional student. I mean, if somebody could pay me a nice 6-figure salary to go to school, I would.
Yeah.
But I haven't had any offers yet. So yeah, law school, actually, I did find it fun, and practicing law was fun too. I was with a great firm with great people for many, many years. And then I left that firm, went to another firm, like consulting company in the same field as the area of law I practiced. And then that didn't work out. So then I went to a boutique firm, and then the pandemic happened. And so I had to kind of retool, and I knew I wanted to do something different. I wasn't really sure what it was. And so I kind of bounced around through a few different iterations. And meanwhile, I started doing freelance legal work, and I ended up working for a firm that was a mass tort plaintiff firm. They had over 300 clients, and there were only 2 attorneys it was managed by the 2 partners of the firm and a team of other freelancers. And when I came on, it was just, everything was all over the place. There was no single source of truth for information. Everything was in the one particular partner's head, and it was like everybody was waiting for her to respond to things, and she was overwhelmed, and everybody was just like, it was just, I got frustrated because I was always searching for information, getting inconsistent information from different people. So I was like, I use this tool to manage my own legal practice and all my freelance projects, plus my own client projects. And I built it out for them, and I give them credit because they were open to that. And I built it out, and then I managed it, and it was literally the most fun I'd ever had practicing law. So, and I'd had a little bit of project management at the consulting firm I was with briefly. So I sort of knew what it was about. I knew there was a PMP certification out there, but it was really after this experience with the mass tort firm and managing that project that I really decided, this is what I really want to do. And I want to help other law firms manage their matters and their firm more efficiently, and free up some time, and also help, efficiency drives profit. So there's a connection there.
Yeah. And it's amazing, people go to law school, and I don't know how many of us that did go to law school really thought it out. Like what do I want to do? Everybody thinks, oh, you're going to be like some scholarly constitutional law going to the, and then it's like reality hits, and you're like, goodness gracious, I'm working for some lunatic partner who all he wants or all she wants is, 85 hours a week, and it's dreadful, and the whole 9 yards. But I'm very interested in this product that you generated, because I'm a mass tort guy, and I know that systems are the key, because when you're in the mass tort world, or you have a lot of clients, it's hard to keep up with. You could have 3 Mary Jones clients. So who's who. So tell us about that particular, what you did for that firm. Was it software? Was it, did you start from scratch? I'm very curious about that.
I pretty much started from scratch. I used a tool that is my favorite tool that I've used is ClickUp, and it's not designed for law necessarily. It's more of a project management tool, but I find it very customizable, a reasonable price point, and everything has a learning curve. And so there was a bit of that for the firm, but I have to say that the one partner in particular, she became my power user. She just loved, she's like, I don't know how we did this without you and without ClickUp. So it was really great to hear that. But the first thing, like anything else, there's a lot of input, right? Data input. And that took some time. There's shortcuts you can import from spreadsheets and things. So I did a lot of that. And then basically, so I had a list of all the clients and then all the different tasks that were associated with that client. So their, what was it called? I can't even remember now. Information sheet or fact sheet or something.
Fact sheet.
Fact sheet, yeah. And so then tracking the status of that. And so we know who is responsible, where it is in the process. So we kind of map out that workflow and say, okay, this is how it goes, and this is when it goes to the client, and this is when the partner reviews it and things like that. So we map out that workflow, and then we put it into the project management system so that we can easily see where everything is, and then you can filter and sort that information by client, by due dates, by status, and just kind of get a real visual sense of where all the different pieces are. And then we had a few clients that were entitled to trial preference. So at one point we broke off and we had trial prep for 4 or 5 clients. And so that was a whole different project. And I managed that as well. And so, or I switched actually, and they hired a project manager for the other stuff. But yeah, it was just really, it was just a game changer, I think, too. And one of the things too is it became a really good way to communicate because we're all remote. And for one thing, this started during lockdown, so obviously everyone was remote, but even more, we had people from all over. We had someone in Florida actually, and we had a couple of us that were pretty close together here in California and Southern California, but I never even met any of the people that I worked with in person. So, so really was able to communicate. And the nice thing too is like, instead of getting things getting lost in your inbox, it's all linked right there. So you communicate right inside a task, or, so a task might be the client's name. And then you just have a conversation about that, whatever needs to get done. Or if it's, the fact sheet. And so the partner might say, hey, can you reach out to the client again about this or something and clarify this or something like that. And that can get assigned to somebody. You could also have like when the status changes, the tasks are automatically created. So, or people are notified. So when a fact sheet is ready for someone to review, for a partner to review, you change it to that status, and then the partner can see, okay, these are all the things that are waiting for me to review. And I had like a separate, you can customize the views and dashboards and different ways to look at the information. So I had it, so she got an email, and then she could also have this view where she could just see all the things that were on her plate for review. And then as a project manager, I can say, hey, this has been, waiting for review for 2 weeks or something like that. Can you let me know like what your status is, or is there anything I can help to get this going, or things like that. So there's a lot of communication and collaboration as the project manager with the attorneys at all levels and staff and everybody. So
yeah, and so what's interesting, I share space with other lawyers and other law firms, and I grew up, we had hard files, you put everything in the file and clipping it on, and okay, this week I'm going to go through the first half of the file cabinet. You're pulling it out, trying to figure out what's been done and what's not been done, making little post-it notes though, people are still doing that. I'm like, oh, God, please, we got to, all right. But before we go any further, I want to make, all right, so you moved into the consulting firm. You're now consulting lawyers and law firms. Is that the reason? Yeah. And that's it. So your avatar is the lawyer law firm that needs to figure out how to get their system in place.
Yeah.
Operate efficiently, become profitable.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
And you also are known for the human-centered design, which
Yes.
is the way to retain clients. So clients, systems, efficiencies equals profitability.
Exactly. I believe so. Yeah, that's the key.
All right. So who can you help and how do you help them?
Yeah, well, I help firms like the couple, the one I talked about, the like a mass tort, where you have a high, either like a high volume of different matters. So maybe like I helped an IP lawyer set up the project management system for her firm, and she just had, I don't know, over 100 trademark applications, and they're all in the different statuses, and some just need to be checked on every couple of months and things like that. And then I have a case where it's one case, but there's huge, like multiple parties. So either mass tort, or I know construction defect litigation can involve a lot of different parties and a lot of moving parts. So those are typically the situations, but I also help firms that just want to overall streamline their operations. Like a lot of times it's a solo firm or a small firm, or usually the managing attorney has everything in their head and they're moving all these different things. They got to check the billing, they got to do this, they got to pay the bills, all the different things. And so it really helps. So it helps to say, well, what are your processes? What are the things that you need to get done? And what's the best system we can set up to just make that more automatic for you through templates and checklists and things like that.
All right. So what's the difference between what you provide versus just your standard typical file vine, case management kind of software?
Yeah, and you can do some project management within those systems. Some of them have the capabilities. They're, I think, more limited, and there's a few out there that are designed for lawyers too, but I personally like ClickUp. I find it very customizable. It's not designed for legal, but you can adapt it, so it works really well. But I think the main thing is it really there's a lot of automation and a lot of reporting aspects of it that you can see quickly, like everything all in one view, or you can drill down to certain specific information. It also combines all that communication, puts everything in one place. You can relate things to each other. You can make it an issue, like a research library. You could have, so if there's somebody, because you don't want people having to go and redo research that's already been done, but there's really not always a great place other than your document management. And then just like doing your Google search, like where is this in here that I need? Has anybody looked at this before? And or maybe it's in a client file and not in a research file, and so you can put that in there. Yeah, so I was gonna say, yeah, I think I guess some of the other platforms too, they are accessible by all team members in real time, but I think that the project management tool really is drilled in, it focuses on the status of things, and you can see workload. So these are things that some of the tools do some of the things and they do them okay, but usually these other tools that are more based for project management are more robust in terms of the kinds of things you can see and how you can manipulate the data and what you're seeing. I really like that it tracks your workload, so you can see if you've got a team, you can see who's at capacity, who's underutilized, and you can make adjustments accordingly.
So the types of lawyers that I find to be most reluctant to get in on technology or whatever seem to be criminal attorneys. Can you help out the criminal attorneys also and convince them that they're doing a disservice to their clients by not having this kind of product at their disposal?
Yeah, I haven't really thought about criminal, but I don't see why not. It's any type of practice where you have a process that you go through, either as a matter in general, or it could be, a specific part of the matter, like in, litigation. It could be discovery is a process, right? And propounding discovery is different than responding to discovery, and that's a process. So I assume criminal law has the similar things, and you've got your hearings and you've got your witnesses and witness prep and trial prep. I think these I love using these tools for trial prep too, so that you can really see it just really gets everything focused and see exactly what you need to do and what the timeline is.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of clients or litigants don't really realize, how important it is for their attorneys to really be ready, willing, and able to try their case. and not just, okay, I'm going to get that case. It sounds like a big case. I should get X amount of dollars. The last thing I want to do is try the case. And I think to some degree, not having the system there is what it really is the biggest impediment to a lot of lawyers in terms of trying their cases. They're like, okay, they're like pulling out a sheet of paper. Okay, call up this witness, do this, and it's like, you got to do better than that. So I really do think that these kind of systems are really helpful to the trial lawyer to get it.
Yeah. Well, and there's so much about trial that is similar from trial to trial, right? You still have your witness prep, you still have your, exhibit lists and trial readiness documents that you need to do. You still have, all these different things, exhibit binders, and so each of those has its own steps that you can easily, implement through a process and a project management tool and see where everything is and what needs to get done. And so, yeah, I think that it's vital. And then, the nice thing is you can generate templates, and so you don't have to reinvent, like make your trial list the same. And some of us do that anyway, like we have our Excel spreadsheet or something like that, but this basically takes it and makes it into a task list that can be assigned, given deadlines, tracked, all those different things. And so I think that, yeah, exactly, having a system in place becomes really important because trial can be a really intense time. And so I think I actually really like, for trial prep too, another tool that's not online. It's just people groan when I say it because it is a meeting, but it's called a stand-up, and that's from Agile Project Management, which is the hot thing in software development. But it can apply, I think it applies so well to trial prep because it's usually a daily meeting, but it doesn't have to be. And it's quick. It's 15 minutes. That's why it's called a stand-up, because you don't need to sit down. Yeah. And I think that's a great way to take a pulse of where everything is. And as a managing attorney or lead attorney, it really means you're not getting knocks on your door, every hour and interrupted from what you're doing, because most of that stuff got handled at the stand-up in the morning. So,
yeah. What do you feel has been the most typical impediment to lawyers doing what you suggest?
Yeah, well, it's always hard to get lawyers to sit down and do something that is not billable, right?
Yeah.
So I think and see the value. They're like, I don't have time to think about how I do things. I just need to get stuff done. And so that can be a challenge. And that's, I think, where me as a lawyer has a value that other project management consultants might not have, because I can do some of that. I basically know, I have never done an employment law case, but I know all the different parts of litigation. And so I can adapt quickly. And what I don't know, I learn. I learned all about trademark applications when I worked with the IP lawyer. So, I think the learning curve for me is less because I already speak the language to some extent. So even when it's an area a transactional area that I don't have a lot of experience in, it doesn't take me that long to get up to speed and understand what's happening and how we can do it. So I think, I try to make that as painless as possible and as quick as possible, but it's really important to get it right, because otherwise you're building the wrong system. So.
All right.
But that's the biggest challenge.
Biggest challenge. And my big concern these days is security and getting hacked and all that. I'm like, all right, so, I'm going paperless, everything's remote, I got a server, I'm on the cloud. I'm like, oh my God, I get hacked, getting these emails. Does the fact that you build this system for the law firm present security issues? Is it something that they need to be aware of?
I think so. I think, it depends. If you have the free version, typically of everything that I've seen, free versions don't usually come with the kind of security that you need as a lawyer. And as you pay per user typically, and as you go up in the pay, you get the better security. And I always kind of use as a shorthand the HIPAA. I'm like, well, if it's secure enough to comply with HIPAA, it's probably good for lawyers. I don't know if that's true, but that's always been my kind of view of it, because you see that more commonly in their disclosures or whatever, on whatever platform you have. It'll say, oh, complies with HIPAA. I'm like, okay, well, it's got to be pretty secure then.
All right. So, I kind of put things into buckets. You're running a law firm, you got to get the, employees, you got to get the system right, you got to get the training, you got to get the clients and keep them. So that's one of the things that you also help out with your clientele as a consultant, and your human-centered design. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, I love human-centered design. It's also applied called design thinking. And I had a friend introduced me to it a few years ago, and it was just like, oh my gosh, this is just amazing. And it's something that was used a lot in product design. And it's basically just like the name sounds, it's putting the people at the center of of your design of how, and here we're talking about designing a service, right? Or delivering a service, or it could be, onboarding the client, and how does that look? And yeah, and so I just think it's really good to have to think about things that way. I love how it applies to the practice of law, because you're really thinking about what the client wants and aligning that needs with the client. There's basically five, they sometimes called steps, but it's not a linear process. And let's see, it's the first is empathy. So you want to really understand what the client wants and what everybody wants everybody who's involved in the process. So it looks at the people and what their needs are, what their expectations are. I think we can all agree that we've way gone past the day of, oh, I'm the lawyer, I'm the expert, just leave it all to me. And that hasn't been the case for a while, I don't think. And so this is kind of goes along with that, is like, okay, we really want to understand the client, get them involved, what their needs are, and make sure we're meeting those needs. And then, I think I like to use this example because I think it's relatable to a lot of people. That, you really want to understand the human experience and how they interact with our service or our firm or whatever. And this is something companies like Apple do really, really well. I mean, if you think about it, when you buy your iPhone or your iPad, it you buy it from this beautiful website or a beautiful store. It comes in this beautiful clean line package. You open it, it feels nice, it looks nice. And they spend a lot of time designing that. It's not just buying a product. They've really designed the whole experience for you. And so I think that it's curated at every step. And I think we can do the same thing with our legal services. Maybe not to that extent, but just to think about it differently, to think about how does the client view this, and how do we want that, what do we want their experience to be? And it really comes to thinking about your billing or your staff communications with clients. And on top of that, so it's not just what the client needs, but it's also like, what do we need to do for our employees to help them deliver that seamless, beautiful client service that we want?
So what the lawyer or the law firm out there that's having issues with clients that you can help the most, what are the typical issues that people are having with clients that you feel you can provide a great service to?
Yeah, well, a lot of it is communication. A lot of clients, they want to know what the status is, and I think that you see that in malpractice cases too. Their attorney communication, they don't return my phone calls, they don't tell me what's going on, and so you want to think about how can you make that better. And sometimes it doesn't mean like, oh, returning phone calls more frequently. Maybe it means giving status information or setting expectations up front, which I know sometimes people don't retain that stuff, but just saying, hey, there's nothing really happening right now, this is what we're going to be doing, or but don't expect, if you don't hear from us for a couple of months or whatever, then that's fine, there's nothing wrong, or it's just there's a delay or whatever the reason is. So I think it's putting thinking it from the client perspective. What's the problem? Is the problem that the clients are calling you too much, or is the problem that they don't understand the process and where they are in the litigation process? And actually, this kind of circles back. You can use tools that have client portals, so you can share and like a status or dashboards with them that explain kind of what's going on, what's in the pipeline, and that can be a way to communicate without the client having to pick up the phone and get your attention. So not that that's a bad thing either. But
I mean, I think that being proactive, sending out information goes a long way. I mean, I think if a client like gets an update and says, hey, there's really nothing going on in your case, but blah, 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 this is what's going to happen in the future, they love it, and instead of them chasing after you, hey, I don't know what, it's been 6 months since I heard from you, can you, I hired you, what's going on? So
right.
you actually help develop the systems that law firms can use to do the communication and instead of just the, okay, hey, how's it going? Yeah. No, we're working on it. Okay. Click, that was a half an hour conversation. No,
Yeah, I mean, you can even automate a lot of that stuff, or like half automate it, create the template, and then maybe it takes you a couple of minutes once a week to just update it and then send it to the client. So you can use email templates or a tool that sends out automatic updates or shares the dashboard or something like that. So, there's ways to set it up so it's easier on you as well. Because I know lawyers, like I said, that they it takes time but I think it's worth it, right? Because the clients love it, and it ultimately reduces, I think, the number of clients that are calling you on a daily basis.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think the thing is for lawyers, you go to law school, you want to be a lawyer, you want to lawyer it up, you want to study, research, write the law, argue the law. But unfortunately, in the world that we're in today, right now, very few lawyers just do law. I mean, you've got to be able to, spend a little time with the system and efficiency, client relations and all that. Otherwise, it's not a happy ending. It's just not a happy ending. And so I think if you're out there, lawyer, law firm, and you're like, hey, the profitability is not there, the client relations are terrible, our system stinks, I know we need to do something, I don't know what to do, this is the lady that you need to call, Katherine Porter. What's the best way to reach you? I know we're going to put your information in the show notes, but
the best way to reach me is directly Katherine at theresourcefullawyer.com. You can also reach me on LinkedIn, K Porter JD. And of course, on my website, theresourcefullawyer.com as well. And I do have a baby YouTube channel that I'm hoping to grow. In fact, I'm going to record some videos right after this.
Nice.
And I share some things about legal project management, human-centered design, and using tools like ClickUp and how to use that for your practice.
Excellent. Well, thank you for coming on the show today, Katherine. And
thank you so much for having me.
Listen out there, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, questions for Katherine, let me know or let Katherine know. I'm going to drop it in the show notes, all this information, so you don't have to write it down right now. But that'll do it for this episode of Cut to the Chase. Thank you for listening. Subscribe, rate, and review. And more importantly, be healthy and enjoy your life. Katherine, have a good day.
Thanks, you too.
That's all for this episode of Cut to the Chase. But before you go, will you open up your podcast app and give us a 5-star review? You can also leave a comment about what you liked most or other topics you'd like us to cover. And please be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming shows. Thanks, everybody. Be safe out there.